And joining us on the line right now, legal analyst Joe DiGenova. Good morning to you, Joe.
Good morning, guys.
All right, I want to start out with something we haven't talked about in a while, and that's about the Benghazi investigation. You know, got this special investigation going on Capitol Hill about what happened with Benghazi. And one of the things that Trey Gowdy, the chairman of that investigation, wants to do is he wants to talk to the former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton. And one hears that Hillary is very, very anxious to actually get up there and tell her side of the story. But Trey Gowdy is saying, hold on a minute. Be happy to have you. But first, we have to get all of the documents. We have to get all of the emails. What good would it do to have you here and ask you questions if we don't have a complete record of what was going on at the State Department at the time? What's going on here?
Well, Trey Gowdy is conducting an investigation the way it should be conducted. No self-respecting committee would call someone to testify without first having in its possession all of the key documents that person authored or saw. In the case of the other committees in the House, which predated the Gowdy Committee, none of them insisted on the production of documents, and they didn't even issue subpoenas in many instances, but just asked for documents and complained later when they didn't get them. Hillary will not testify before Gowdy until he has all of the documents, including the ones that Cheryl Mills and others were trying to hide from committees when they were spotted on a Sunday evening rifling through documents that had been subpoenaed by congressional committees. So Gowdy's got it right. Hillary wants to testify. Of course she does. She wants an incomplete record so she can continue to lie.
And so you're very happy with that? Because I've seen some critics saying, geez, where's all the fire from Trey Gowdy? Where's all the smoking guns? They were expecting more from the Select Committee up until now.
That's because they're used to the sort of Washington claptrap, like the stuff that went on in the House on Benghazi, Armed Services Committee, House Foreign Affairs, and, of course, the worst case of all, Mike Rogers' horrible Intelligence Committee investigation. What Gowdy is doing is he actually put out a statement last week indicating exactly how they're proceeding. What they are doing is they are taking depositions in private under oath, and that's how they're proceeding. And then they're going to have public hearings after they have all the documents and everybody has given a deposition. They're getting people locked in. There isn't going to be any of this nonsense. By the way, what's happening is the Democrats have been denied an opportunity, because there are no hearings, to simply say this is ridiculous, this is wasteful, these questions have already been answered. Gowdy is acting brilliantly. He's holding his powder.
All right, let's talk about some other stuff. What about the American Sniper trial? Because I understand that the suspect in that case, his name is Eddie Ray Ralph, age 27, it's been determined that he was apparently not insane at the time, that he knew what he was doing was wrong.
Well, that's what one of the psychologists who testified at the trial the other day for the prosecution in rebuttal testified.
So it's still an open question how it's going to be ruled, right?
Yeah. This is a question for the jury. The prosecution very wisely took the death penalty off the table so that the juror won't be worried about that, and the trial has been uncomplicated as a result of that. God only knows what the jury's going to do. The guy sounds like he had some problems, but he also sounds like he knew right from wrong, which would make him guilty as a matter of law. But that's for the jury to decide. So we shall see. It's a sad story and one that I wish we didn't have to even talk about, but there it is.
Joe, given last week's summit on combating violent extremism, I always have
you have to stop and get the words
I know,
just right because it seems so unnatural to say it that way.
Basically, it was Terror Con is what it was.
Right.
So the president had his whole touchy-feely, politically correct, it's about jobs and finance and please, for God's sake, don't offend any Muslims kind of thing. And then this weekend, we see over in France, famous actress Brigitte Bardot. She is on trial right now for inciting racial speech. That's what the charge is over in France. And here's the kinds of things that she said. And by the way, this is her 5th trial.
Right.
She has been brought up on these charges. She said things like, are you ready? I'm fed up with being under the thumb of this population which is destroying us and destroying our country. She also said that she laments the Islamization of France, and because of saying things like that, she's actually had to pay fines because she's broken the law. I'm connecting these two dots because I think that people are genuinely afraid that because of the thought process we saw at the White House last week, that there will be infringements on free speech here that we're already seeing in Europe.
No question about it. The president has this European thought pattern, and the people around him, Valerie Jarrett, Susan Rice, all of these people, they actually believe this claptrap about the fact that Muslims are so frightened of America that they can't stand to have the truth told about the radical Islamists. What's going on in Europe? You remember, I've been talking about this ever since I started this program with WMAL. Over the last 10 years of traveling through Europe, what you see is a rising anti-Islam, and it's because the Europeans will not confront the reality on the ground, and they won't confront it because they have these stupid laws, which are called anti-blasphemy laws, which prohibit free speech. Europe is committing suicide, and it doesn't even know it. And if we're not careful, and the most important thing is not to listen to the president and to Susan Rice and Valerie Jarrett. Americans have to keep thinking the way they always have, common sense. The threat is radical Islam. It's not what the president says. It isn't these poor folks who need jobs. They don't need jobs. You know, these guys come from very wealthy families. The 19 hijackers in 2001, those guys came from wealthy families. None of these people are poor. I mean, this is ludicrous. But what you see in France and what you see happening in Europe is the development of anti-Islam sentiment, and it's happening because the European politicians are making a terrible mistake. They will not tell their people the truth.
I want to tap into your political acumen as well, because not only you're a legal analyst, you're a pretty smart guy when it comes to how politics works out.
You're absolutely right.
Well, of course. And humble and modest, too. Indeed. So, listen, we got this problem about the DHS funding matter. Yeah. I mean, they are not funded beyond the end of this month, I think it is, and there's some question about how it's going to be resolved.
Well, here's the deal. By the way, this is also a legal question. Here's the deal. The House Republicans passed the bill in the House that they control, sent it to the Senate. The Senate Republicans are trying to pass the DHS funding bill, minus the money for the unconstitutional and illegal action by the president to legitimize almost 5 million illegal aliens. And the Democrats are filibustering the bill in the Senate. But guess who's getting blamed by the mainstream media? The Republicans. The Republicans are doing nothing except trying to pass the bill. The Democrats are obstructing it by filibustering, and so the media blames the Republicans for not caving in. If the GOP gets a message and shows what they're doing, this will work out fine. And one of the ways they can do that is to end the filibuster rule on legislation in the Senate. That's the one thing that Harry Reid did not eliminate when he changed the filibuster rule in November of 2013. What the Republicans should do is eliminate the filibuster rule, pass this bill with a majority of 51 votes, send it to the president, let him veto it without the funding for his unconstitutional actions on immigration. It will be the president who is blocking the funding of DHS. I hope that McConnell ends the filibuster rule on legislation and teaches the Democrats a lesson. Harry Reid started this. McConnell should finish it and abolish the filibuster rule for legislation.
Joe DiGenova, if Harry Reid had done that, would you have been happy?
I would have been unhappy as I was with what he did. But let me tell you something. There's a lesson to be learned here. If the Democrats are faced with the changing of this rule, and this legislation is passed, and the Republicans keep sending bills to the president, which he insists on vetoing, the Democrats may then come to their senses and say, you know what? Maybe we should restore the filibuster rule to its full, robust thing the way it was before Harry Reid ruined it in November of 2013. As far as I'm concerned, the way to deal with it now is take them on. All right.
Listen, Joe, I appreciate you joining us. I shudder to think of the legislation that a President Hillary Clinton will get passed if she gets Democrats in the Senate leadership by just one vote. That's
she
what
may get elected if they don't abolish the filibuster rule and start a real fight with the president.